The members of CAAN's research unit represent 9 different projects or grants: the AHA Center, Drum and Sash, Weaving Our Wisdoms, JIPA Home Fire, the Transformation Project, Measuring SR-HR Grant, HCV Research Consultant, and 9 Genders. We recently got together as a team to explore 3 questions. In research, why do we need community? Why does community need us? And what lessons have we learned about HIV that can help us navigate COVID and other pandemics?
Everyone, we are going to talk about why community is important for researchers. And first, we want to clarify what community means. Community can mean many things. It can be a community based on geography or a nation, or it can be based on a shared experience, such as living with HIV or Hep C or cancer or tuberculosis, experiencing an overdose, or shared identities, such as being two-spirit. In all of these examples, we are talking about first voice perspective, the voice of people who have a first-hand experience of the context being researched. So this is very vital important for researchers. And this is the kind of community we are talking about.
Yeah, when I was thinking about this question, it got me thinking about how I arrived here at CAAN and what sort of led up to it. So I think for me, I was involved in community-based research during my schooling, and I really loved being a part of a team, collaborating with people. We were, in general, we were a group of students, we were academics, we were community members, and for many of us, our identities and roles were not static or exclusionary. There was a lot of overlap in these. And we each came to the research and to the work with our own diverse gifts and perspectives and talents. And I think that in that position, it really allowed us to do the work in a more balanced way. And we were able to, through working with others, we were able to learn and do our research in different ways, and in ways that we wouldn't maybe get to if we were working on our own. I know that was the case for myself. So I think that's why I feel quite honored to be in the position that I am now here with CAAN at doing the harm reduction coordination work. I know the harm reduction research that's happened in the past and the work that's ongoing is quite collaborative. And I think when I think about what coordination and research work looks like, I think of a quilt and how people's diverse experiences and perspectives can come together and make a whole, but people's sort of experiences are not done, they're not in clashing with each other. They're complementing each other through their difference, and the kind of work that we want to do can't be done alone. So I think that's when I think about, you know, why we need community. That's why we can't do the work alone. So I'll pass it over to Carrie.
Thank you. When I was thinking about why we need community, well, members of the community with whom the research is being conducted, however we choose to define community, need to be included in all stages of the research process. They're the ones with the living experience, the personal and the lived knowledge, and they bring a richness to the discussions that can't be found otherwise. They're the reason that we do the work, and they need to be the driving force behind it.
Yeah, working as a research in the sexual and reproductive rights, I think research is critical to inform policies that advance reconciliation and support Indigenous self-determination. And the research is a collaborative process. Therefore, we need the community to remove the various social, cultural, and logistical barriers that confound sometimes the well-intentioned efforts of many public health programs. We need the community to help identify and address health concerns that are critical to public health researchers. Therefore, is the importance of engaging community advocates as full partners when embarking on health research, and identify these as essential things that researchers should do to ensure a good success of the research itself. We need to obtain input from the people impacted by the issues, and it's the community who knows better the issue and who probably also they can have the solution on how to address the issue. Establishing equal footing between researchers and the community in choosing a research topic or program. And this is very important because it's to be at the same level and not as it was always been, like this is the researchers and we are the community and we don't know anything and you know too much. So it's working in pairs and working with equal knowledge, because we don't know what they know and they don't know what we know. So this is the beautiful of working with the community. And some example of why we need the community for research are, we need to use qualitative data, such as stories from them, from people who have been through the issue, and which are influential in demonstrating the value of the study. So I think this is the importance of the community and why we need the community.
So we've been asked to talk about why community needs us. And we are three more, I guess, researchers doing community-based research. And we all came from this from different perspectives. So my understanding of why community would need us is that we are able to navigate a more academic world. So we are able to interpret what is needed from academic researchers, working with academic researchers, working in institutions, academic institutions, or even applying for things like research grants, from different agencies. So we kind of help do that. As our good friend, Dr. Charlotte Lopi always says, use me and use my name and use my information to help you to meet whatever needs you have and to help you to do the work that you want to do. And so that's how I understand this question. And I'll turn it over to Marty.
Thanks, Sherry. So when the immediate thought that I had was kind of situated and based in the project that Sherry and I both work in, the IPHA Center. So the IPHA Center was created in 2012 to give support to community people who are interested in doing Indigenous research around HIV. Some of the kind of higher level things that the IPHA Center offers are things like our Wise Practices Gathering, which happens every 2 years or so. It's essentially a research conference that brings together people from all different facets of the research world, really. So everybody from people living with HIV, the peer researchers who help us on our research teams, and to the policymakers and our academic colleagues that help us create the change that we seek in community. We bring all of those folks together to share what, the knowledge that they have and the research work that they're doing across the country. Another thing that we have in place at the IPHA Center to help do that as well is the Journal of Indigenous HIV Research. So that journal is a peer-reviewed research publication that provides a space for community researchers to publish and publish in a review, in a peer-reviewed publication. And we also support students in a way with our community engagement fund, which gives a little pot of money for research teams that are wanting to start their research work and apply to a larger research grant. Thanks. Carrie Lynn?
Hi. I think what's really important when I hear that question, it reminds me of how long that we've been silenced in community. And it reminds me of how long that we've been researched on rather than being researched with. And now it's evolving into leading research. And how exciting is that? And so I see CAAN's role in this is to celebrate that ceremony is now a part of research, and to celebrate that there is Indigenous privilege, and that we support communities to pause and not to have things done for them as far as research goes, but to actually consider what is our response going to be? What are our priorities? How are we going to do this so that it's embraced in our language and our culture, and that the findings that come out are not just statistics, but they actually tell the story forward. And like our research findings of the past from hundreds of years ago, where the stories came forward and helped us to walk and live and do in a good way. These newly Indigenous led research projects are not like the traditional academic research projects. These are journeys. These are the writings of stories by and for the people and the communities that are doing them, and CAAN provides a safe place and a supportive place to do that. I think we also, through our alliances and networks, are able to give them bigger platforms to share this with. So regionally and provincially and nationally and internationally, so that what they're learning and what they are teaching us can be shared with others to help shape the way that they respond to things that they want answers for. And so, you know, as a staff member of CAAN, I'm so honored and so humbled to be working with elders and to be working with academics, to be working with our CAAN team to support all of that to unfold and to actually see the decolonizing process unfold in front of our eyes. Hi.
All right, so in thinking about this, this opportunity to come together, we realized that we're really living in a historical time. And our question was reflecting on lessons that we've learned from responding to HIV that could help us to navigate COVID and other pandemics. And really thinking about other pandemics such as housing, toxic drug supply, stigma, and all those things that are yet to come. So what we've learned from responding to HIV and living with COVID so far in our own lives and in our research, for me, really reflecting on our research activities, I think that I've learned the importance of meeting people where they're at. And that's all of us, staff and community and colleagues. And that's meant reflecting on why we're doing the research that we're doing, and what we're being called into, and thinking about responding to HIV and learning about HIV as an opportunity to get to know the virus, to get to know the context of living with the virus, and how that changed what we understood about what it took to respond, and what it took to respond as a person and as a community. And so that meant calling on some experience around, lessons learned from epidemiology, and what is a pandemic and how is that tracked, and how do we begin to understand what's necessary to think about our whole health, and really about the power of a community response. So that when HIV was first discovered, when it was a new virus, and how community leadership and medicine had to come together, and that the expertise was shared across every person involved. Everybody had to come together. Everybody had to learn together. It was so new and so novel that there was no certainty. And so I think that's created a little bit of space to think about how to respond to COVID, and what HIV has taught us about having trust in each other, that really, truly, we're all in it together. And if we stick together, we can get through something, and we can get to another side, and we can get through to a better place. And I think that's really called us in to think about what it might mean to end a pandemic. What does it mean to find an end to HIV, and if there ever will be an end to HIV, if there ever will be an end to COVID, and that transition of I can still see my friends talking about what it meant to be dying of AIDS and transitioning to living with HIV, and building a relationship with HIV. And I think building a relationship with COVID is part of what might take us forward. And certainly in the context of our research work, what calls us to be activist researchers, what calls us to be thoughtful and mindful about how we support each other, and how we engage in this work in a way that is really meant to keep us moving forward, and to keep us moving forward together, and find all those places where we can be safe, and all those places where we have to be careful, and navigate that space respectfully. Thanks.
Hey everybody, my name is Patrick Brownlee. I'm the Research and Logistics Coordinator at CAAN. And when I thought about what lessons I've learned through HIV that would help navigate COVID or other pandemics, is that things, when AIDS came out, or HIV came out in the 80s, we band together as, humans to come together to make a better world for everybody, and to help try to eradicate HIV. When COVID came along, that's kind of what we saw again, right? We saw everybody come together, just in a different way because it's a different time. But everybody came together to find a better way to change people's lives and make things better for everybody. And I think that we're still doing that. So sorry, I messed up.
Hey, Mike Ash here, Executive Research Assistant for CAAN. I've learned that it's been more isolating during pandemics. Also that I need to be more cautious when entering the world, which is, it's been huge in the last 2 years. Like, it's hard to manage and to wrap your head around just that alone.
So as I thought about the question over the last little while, I think some of the lessons that we've learned from HIV as we navigate, as others have said, this sort of world with this new virus, is our strength and our reliance on our traditional Indigenous values, and really coming back to that sense of community, our sense of wholeness as individuals. We know that physical health is important, but what also will help us get through that is our strength and our emotional, our wholeness as individuals. I think COVID has been a gift for many of us, not always a good one, but it's had its lessons. And it's also taught us the importance of kindness, of our values, of when things went shut down. We used our traditional sort of communication pathways. We delivered food. We shared with one another, whether it was physical space or even opening our hearts for one another. That sense of community that we created from HIV has also translated into our communities Canada and internationally as well as locally. We wouldn't be here, many of us, were it not for the gifts that we also got to learn about one another this year. As we move forward, I do want to remember and remind ourselves, we're all part of the circle. We are community. Community is us. Miigwech.
On behalf of everyone at the research unit, I'd like to thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a wonderful week.